I have made a ton of money doing gig work, but how much of that did I get to keep? The truth is pretty eye-opening. Whether you've been driving for 2 days or 2 years, I'm willing to bet you think you're making more money than you really are. What's going on, everybody? I'm Zach Drives Fast for the Rideshare Guy, and in this video, we're going to talk about the true cost of gig work and how to calculate your expenses. I'm also going to tell you about how doing gig work almost cost me my livelihood, and you're not going to want to miss that, so stick around. I'm the type of guy who learns lessons the hard way, and gig work has been no different. One of those lessons being the downsides of the independent contractor model. Don't get me wrong, it comes with some very desirable perks for the contractor, but it also comes with some very real drawbacks too. For example, we cover all of our own expenses. Tony and Dara will not be waiting at the gas pump to swipe the company card when we need to fill up. When I had an engine blow up on me, they didn't pay for a tow truck, they didn't offer me a ride home from the shop, and they definitely didn't send my car a get well soon card. Instead, I was out of pocket completely and lost my ability to drive because it was my car, not theirs. The independent contractor model is great until it goes sideways, or until you start calculating your actual cost to operate. Before we go any further, I could see somebody misconstruing my words. So, given the choice between a W-2 or an independent contractor, I'm taking the freedom every time. But I also know what I'm getting into. Let's look at an example. When you're out driving and you see an order pop up on your phone that's paying you $10 going 3 miles, and it's going to take about 20 minutes of your time. Sounds like a good deal, right? Well, sure, but don't assume that you just made $10. This is one of the biggest mistakes that I see new and veteran drivers alike make. People do not know their cost to operate. I want to stop here for a moment. This isn't going to be some boring ass math video full of spreadsheets and equations, but rather some high-level overview shit and hopefully kind of humorous. Picture this. It's the end of the month and you've been hustling every day this month and you've made $1,000 a week. You laid off the booze, you weren't buying fast food, and you damn sure didn't drop any money on frivolous shit. So why do you only have $1,500 in your bank account? I mean, there's usually 4 weeks in a month and you've made $1,000 a week, so what the hell? Remember that $10 order that we talked about a moment ago? Sure, you profited $10 if you were driving a company car that you didn't have to pay for, didn't have to put gas in, pay for the repairs on, change the oil in, or replace the tires. Not to mention that Uncle Sam is always going to want his cut. All of a sudden, that $10 is a lot less. We're going to talk about how much less here in a moment, but I want to give you a bad analogy first. I've been catfished on a dating app before. Weird segue, I know, but follow me. I swiped right on a very attractive woman, and she was into me too, for some reason. After a bit of messaging and a few phone calls, we decided to meet up for coffee, and my $10 turned into a lot less. Don't get me wrong, it was the same girl in the pictures, minus the Photoshop, and while she was a lovely girl, I definitely didn't get what I was expecting. Drivers do the same thing, but worse. See, we catfish ourselves. We see a number in an app and assume that that is how much we're walking away with at the end of the day. Here are a few common things that drivers rarely factor in deciding how much they actually made. Let's start with the big ass elephant in the room, the gas pumps. Unless you're using an EV, a bike, or a scooter, our single biggest expense is gas. Here's how you figure out how bad this will screw you. Look up how many miles per gallon your car gets. Next, figure out how many miles you're going to drive on that order. If you don't anticipate getting an order on your way back, factor the return trip in as well. Divide the number of miles that you're going to be driving by the miles per gallon that your car gets. Next, multiply the gas that you burnt on that order by the price you paid per gallon. That will determine how much gas you spent doing that order. Okay, maybe I lied. There's some math, but this is important. Let's use that same $10 order going 3 miles with my car. Mandy Mazda gets about 28 miles a gallon, and gas is going to set me back about $4.50 a gallon. I'm going to spare you the equation on this one, so just trust me. I'm going to end up spending 48 cents on gas doing that order. $10 just turned into $9.52. Still a good order though, right? I'm going to throw some more numbers at you, and you're welcome to calculate them as well, but I promise they math. Let's say that you need to replace your tires once a year, and that's going to set you back about $800. Along with those tires, you have to replace your brake pads to the tune of $500. Oil changes will set you back about $600 for the year, and we're also going to factor in $400 for random unforeseen expenses. That's $2,300 per year in expenses alone. If you drive 5 days a week, that works out to be $8.85 per day. For argument's sake, let's say today was a busy day and you took 10 orders. Each order is going to cost you 89 cents in wear and tear. When you factor in gas costs and wear and tear, you're left with $7.63. I wish I could stop there, but Uncle Sam won't. Assuming you're doing your taxes correctly and you're factoring in your expenses, you can expect to pay tax on $7.63. That's going to cost you 58 cents in federal tax alone. That brings your new total to $7.05. So far, we've only talked about the foreseeable stuff, and in the interest of not making anybody's heads explode, we're going to stop with the numbers. However, I want to point out, we did not touch on parking fees, tolls, car payments, insurance, health plans, and the supplies we need to do our jobs. All of a sudden, it becomes extremely convoluted to calculate your true cost to operate. Not to mention, this of course will vary from person to person and day to day. The real problem lies with the unforeseen things. In my opinion, it is nearly impossible to calculate your true cost to operate with any level of accuracy. More often than not, it's just an educated guess rather than an exact science. But you should get that educated guess as close to accurate as possible. Let's talk about why. Before I get into that, I'm not a CPA and you should always consult with one for anything tax related. This video is not tax advice. You'll need to talk to somebody much smarter than me about it. With that said, let's continue. The only two things in life that are certain are pushing daisies and paying taxes. Tax time comes every year whether we're ready for it or not. Having a fairly accurate cost to operate calculated is essential for you not paying taxes on money that you didn't actually profit. Your 1099 will not calculate your cost to operate for you. It's up to you to do it for yourself. I want to go on a tirade for just a moment. Companies like DoorDash and Uber Eats are businesses. They're in it to make money for themselves and their shareholders. However, their business model doesn't work without us. If you're doing it right, you should be treating it like a business also. Towards the beginning of this video, I mentioned an event that almost cost me my livelihood. At the time, I was driving full-time hours and I wasn't making a penny from YouTube. Despite me doing all of my maintenance on time or early, something went catastrophically wrong with my engine. Ultimately, this left my car undrivable. My options were to either spend over $5,000 to replace the engine in my car, or to suck it up and buy a new car. Either way, it was going to be extremely expensive. My mistake was that I hadn't set aside extra money to replace a car. So, this left me scrambling. Being is that I'm a single parent and get healthy tax write-offs, have an excellent CPA, and keep meticulous track of my records, I got a tax refund that year. And guess where that went? You guessed it, for a down payment on a new car. However, this problem resulted in me not driving for a few months. The lesson I want to convey to you is you shouldn't just factor in your gas and wear and tear. You should also have an oh shit fund. It's not uncommon for some of us to drive over 30,000 miles in a year. We run our cars into the ground and go through them like some people go through socks. Don't get caught with your pants down. I know it sucks to start out with something like $10 and end up with more like $5, but come tax time or oh shit time, you'll be really grateful you set that money aside. After all is said and done, nobody is looking out for our financial best interests, except for ourselves. Be meticulous about tracking your expenses and keeping records. If you haven't done so yet, please do consider pressing the like button and subscribing to the Rideshare Guy. You can catch my videos here every Tuesday. If this video resonated with you, you might want to check out this video where I talk about whether Americans are fed up with tipping. I'm Zach Drives Fast for the Rideshare Guy. Take care.